What's up, everybody? You can call me Big Cam, and today we are breaking down episode 1, After Hours of the Penguin, an HBO original show from Matt Reeves, the same director as the Batman. This show, starring Colin Ferrell as the Penguin, as Cobb himself. It feels so very Sopranos. Oh, I really enjoyed this first episode. It was a touch long. It was an hour and 7 minutes, coming off of like Marvel TV where it's like 40 something minutes, maybe 50 at the most. A full-length HBO show. I watched pretty much 2 episodes of Agatha All Along in the same amount of time that it took me to watch 1 episode of The Penguin, really. But that's because I'm pausing, taking notes for you guys on the channel. And going back, seeing things I want to see again. And I will definitely be rewatching these shows all the time. But I love how The Penguin opens up, and it starts immediately right where Batman left off. Gotham's flooded. The Penguin is standing over that window overlooking overlooking Gotham, and he's looking out at like the sunrise, and he's soaking wet from the flooding, and he's in that perfect shot that we saw Bruce Wayne and Batman in Falcone's office. He's standing in that same frame, so clearly they kept that same set, or I mean, maybe they just have access to a building. Maybe it's like an actual real space, but I would think it would be a set that they built and that they kept around from the Batman, maybe even carrying it over into the Batman 2. But starting off here, the Penguin is fucking awesome. The journey to his reign starts today. I love his purple car, his outfits, the prosthetics look so good. Just to start off, just some things I want to talk about before we get into the episode. Kristen Milioti plays Sophia Falcone, and she did this photo shoot here with this silver metallic-y dress in front of Oz's purple Maserati. And God, she is so goddamn beautiful, but she is also terrifying. Her character is so good, and she plays it almost a little too well. But also, one of my favorite characters from the Batman, John Turturro, Carmine Falcone, he passed, not in real life, thank God. Whoa. He died in the Batman, his character did, and he had scheduling conflicts and couldn't come back for the Penguin TV show. So I don't know how he's going to be back. It must be for flashback scenes, because Mark Strong on the right here is going to be playing Carmine Falcone. And it's just funny to see him with hair. I normally see him as a bald-headed man, but yeah, if they're going to get anyone to be Carmine Falcone over John Turturro, it's not bad. At least he's got the same glasses and mustache. You know, I dig it. But one of my favorite lines from Batman that I just so happened to find a clip of when I was pulling stuff together for this is the interrogation scene of the Penguin in the Batman.
Holy God, what are you showing me? His head. Come on!
Hey, oh, what are you showing me? Whoa! Open your eyes! And he's like, it's like the worst Spanish I ever heard. La, El, La. Am I the only one that knows the difference between L and La? Sounds like a fucking bat. What is this? Good cop, bad shit cop. You know, like, it's such a good scene, and all of the parts with the Penguin in that movie are so good, and Colin Ferrell's so funny as the Penguin. I really love just how he talks, his character, you know. The first time Batman shows up, oh, easy, sweetheart, looking for me? You know, like, Free gets pushed up against the glass. Hey, don't look at me, I'm just the proprietor. You know, like, it's got such a good voice. But yeah, this episode starts off right away, so let's get into it. So, it opens up on the Penguin, like I was saying, wet, looking out that window. There's also a news feed that's talking about Gotham being flooded, the Riddler's taken into custody, Falcone died, and now there's going to be a power vacuum to figure out who's going to be the new head of the Falcone mob, and that's most likely going to be his son, Alberto. But we see Oz come into the Falcone office that we saw in the Batman, and he walks into the office with a sledgehammer and starts banging on a wall to peel open a hidden compartment where there is some intel and some dirt hidden on some officials and council people and people in the Falcone family, I think. You know, and so he grabs the dirt, stuffs it in his waistband, and then he sees jewels, and he's holding the jewels. And all of a sudden Alberto walks in and friggin' catches him in the act, and Oz plays it cool, talks his way out of it, and goes, "These are, your father said these were for you." We never seen this conversation, so he could be telling the truth, but I have a feeling that he's just, you know, being clever and talking his way out of it, trying to get Alberto onto his side. Now, Alberto is also a drophead, and he's like real stressed out. He's like, I'm the new boss, you know, how am I gonna be like my dad if I'm a drophead? I've been off the drops. He goes, "Hey, good for you, staying off the drops, but drinks don't count, right? Let's get drunk." You know, like, him and Oz start to get drunk, immediately leads Alberto into the dropheads, and Alberto has a plan for the business. Alberto wants to make the drops stronger, and, you know, is telling Oz his plan while he's drunk, and he throws jewels at a big old necklace, definitely valuable, over at Oz, and goes, "Hey, keep quiet, you know, I don't need other people knowing about my plan here." And but calls him out at the same time and goes, "But my father knew you were skimming off the top." And he goes, "Don't worry about it, you never took enough that my father ever minded, but he knew what it was like for a guy like you to get a taste." And, you know, so now he's kind of self-conscious. He's like, "Fuck him, fuck Carmine, you know, I took a taste because I deserved it," you know, like that type of thing. He doesn't say that, but, you know, you can tell that that's how he's feeling. Alberto's wearing Carmine's ring, and we find out that that ring wasn't just Carmine's ring. It was Salvatore Maroni's ring, and he's been wearing around as like a trophy, as like a fuck you, an extra fuck you to the Maroni family. And we find out later, and we also knew from trailers, that Clancy Brown is playing Salvatore Maroni, and he is locked up in jail. So we'll get to more of that later. So Oz, while he's talking to a drunk Alberto, and probably maybe a little drunk himself, starts talking about a revered gangster that he grew up with in his neighborhood called Rex Calabrese. And he was a made man, and he was respected and revered, and when he died, the neighborhood threw a funeral for him, a parade through the streets. And he goes, "Nothing fancy." He goes, "But here's the thought." He goes, "Could you imagine being revered like that? You're always smoking a cigar." And as he's saying it, I was like, oh man, I cannot wait to see Colin Ferrell puffing on a stogie this whole show. He didn't necessarily do it this episode, but his friend that he meets, he gives a cigar, and I was like, oh man, I love a good stogie. So maybe this will get me back into smoking a good stogie or something. Maybe drinking a little whiskey. Maybe I'll end up watching some westerns, you know, something. Yeah, cowboy. No, no. An old cigar, or maybe even a fat blunt. Watching a gangster show like The Sopranos and now The Penguin. That's a vibe and a half, man. If you know what I mean. But Oz is, you know, he's like, there's different types of power, and he's talking about Rex Calabrese, and Alberto kind of takes this the wrong way and goes, "What, you want me to be like some small town gangster?" And he's like, no, that's not the point he's trying to make. He's trying to make the point of, listen, if everyone knows what you're doing and knows you're a criminal, but you know everybody's name, and you're a known guy, and people won't fuck with you, but also respect you, there's a certain amount of level of power in there where you don't have to threaten people, you don't have to you know, be nice to people. You just kind of exist, and people are nice to you, you're nice back, you're respected, you're revered, you walk around, and it's a great feeling. And it's actual power, right? Like anyone in actual power was given that power type of thing. But anyone that earns their power, earns their respect, is a known man, even at a small level like just your local gangster. That's some power, and that can't be underestimated. And so, but Alberto makes fun of him, and is like, is this what you want? Oh, fucking Oz Cobb, what a pussy. And this kind of sets Oz off. And we get to see the real Oz. And Oz fucking shoots him. And he chuckles about it. And he chuckles, and then he goes quiet. And then all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, fuck!" fuck, and then we cut to the Penguin title. So not quite like the Riddler, where the Riddler was killing a man and enjoying every second of it. Oz did what he had to do because he felt disrespected and it was instinctual. But he also just killed the new boss of the family, right? Like he threatened to shoot Carmine because he was a rat, but he didn't, and the Riddler did. But he did shoot his son Alberto. Mostly just because he laughed at him. And Oz is not the type of man that you laugh at. But I thought it was fascinating that the Batman and the Penguin both start with the character, either the Riddler or the Penguin, murdering somebody. So starting off immediately, not, getting it twisted that the characters we're following, whether it be the Riddler or the Penguin, are murderers, right? Like, they are the villains in the story. They're not the Batman, But so Oz has to carry out the body, and he's like, limping along with his bad foot, and he tosses the body down the stairs, and he comes outside to guys trying to steal his rim. So he starts shooting at these kids, and just like the whole manner of how he shot at him, he walks up, and he's walking, he's like, "Don't you move!" And he gets up on him and he's like, "Oh, you motherfucker stole from the wrong guy on the wrong fucking night." And you're like, "Oh, shit." And it's just this poor young kid named Victor Aguilar. And he goes by Vic, and he's kind of got a stutter, and it gets worse when he's scared. But Vic's a good kid, And instead of shooting him on the spot and making this the second body of the evening, he goes, "Vic, all right, come here." And he fucking makes him help him put the body into the trunk, and then goes, "All right, you want to steal the rims? You drive." And the kid's like, "Really? What the fuck?" And, kind of trying to win him over, kind of trying to show him like, "Hey, I'm not so bad, you drive." And offers him to drive, but he also wants to be able to sit there and look at him and fucking hold a gun on him. But he's also the boss. Why make old Penguin drive when he can make other people do it for him? But as they get in the car, he keeps the gun on him, and then he's like, starts just talking, and he's like, "Aqua Paradise, you like the air freshener," like all the lines he said. I'm like, dude, all of this is gold. Like, Colin Ferrell is so funny. Like, between Colin Ferrell as the Penguin and Catherine Hahn as Agatha Harkness, right now we have two shows on where the main characters understand their assignments to perfection. Oh, it's so good. Oz takes Vic's wallet, finds out his address, where he lives. He starts to try and bond with him over where they're from. Oz grew up in a similar neighborhood to him. Knows that he's like, "You only got $1 in your wallet, you're broke, and you're stealing rims. You guys got no ambition." So Oz and him get some burgers, and they're eating burgers, and he goes, "I asked for extra pickles. They gave me 2 pickles. What, so 1 is a normal amount?" And then Vic's like, "Here's this," and offers him his pickles. I was like, "Vic, you're such a sweet little guy." And he goes, "No, I don't want your fucking pickles." Throws the friggin' rest of it in the fire. I think he was burning the clothes he was wearing, so burning the evidence of the clothes. And he was like, "Hey, we're wasting too much time. We gotta get the fuck out of here." Because at this point it's already middle of the night and he's wasting time eating burgers, bitching about pickles. But so Oz starts to give him a hard time about him and his friends and how they don't have ambition again. And now at this point it's early in the fucking morning. And he goes, "Turn around, look at that sunrise." And he's like, "Don't do it, please." He goes, "Kid, there's only one way this ends, and it's you're in the trunk with him." And so Oz is gonna kill him, but Vic talks his way out of it, and he's like, "Listen," and he's like smoking a cigar that he gave him, and he's like, "Listen, give me a chance. I do have ambition." And so Oz lets him have his chance, but warns him, "If you fuck up, I will gut you like a fucking fish." And then goes, "Turn around, I want to look at the sunrise." So now he's like looking at the sunrise. He's been up all night, right? Like, hasn't slept at all. He's murdered a man, but now he's been through the evening. Now it's morning. He goes back to his house and he goes, "I'm just gonna get changed, grab a couple things, and then I gotta go to work like a normal day, like nothing happened." And we see that Oz's right foot is all fucked up, and it explains the limp. The toes are all like cropped. I had a friend's dad that foot was messed up, and he had to cut off the toes, and he just had like a little stump in a shoe. And I don't want to, say the name, but if they're watching, they know who their father is. And he was the man. I loved their dad. But I'm surprised Oz here hasn't chopped, you know, just gone stump there. Instead he has like the fucked up foot shoved in a shoe. I'm sure it's just that one scene just to show the shoe, and then, you know, normally when he's walking around, it's just Colin Farrell doing this walk. I would be curious to know if Colin Farrell does that walk now, you know, after the season. You know, every now and again he just finds himself like doing this weird walk. I would love to know stuff like that. But we also see that Oz kept that ring from Alberto, that Salvatore Maroni ring. Maybe that comes back later. Vic drives him into work. We see that Gotham is still flooded and it's terrible, and there's only certain roads that you can access the city now. Everything else is flooded. And he goes, look at what that madman did. Right? So he thinks the Riddler is a madman. And it honestly, it shows the difference between the folks in Arkham and the folks on the outside, right? Like, the Penguin might be a bad dude, but he's operating underneath the police in the real world, where the other people, like the Riddler, are making their own fucking rules, and that's why they end up in fucking Arkham, because they're batshit fucking crazy and they're psycho. Now the Riddler, or the Penguin might be a psycho, but he contains it a little bit better, you know what I mean? He keeps it underneath the surface, you know, in the shadows, behind closed doors. He's not just killing random police, he's killing other mob guys, you know what I mean? So he gets into work, and Oz goes, hey, bring a note and a paper, and he puts some dirt in an envelope and then writes, let's be friends on it, let's be pals, and he sends that person to give the dirt to Councilman Haiti. Now, I don't know if we've met him yet, but he says that he's a big fan of the Rio Vidal or whatever, but it looks like he had dirt on the Falcones in there, so trying to make it where the Penguin has the power, right? Like he's very close to having everything he wants, and he's gonna take it. But we see Oz is definitely trying to make friends in high places. We find out from his workers that most of the drops were contaminated by sewer water, and they only were able to get like 30% of it back, but it's all been contaminated. And he goes, well, the drop heads are gonna use it anyways, right? Get it out to them. But Oz gets called in by the Falcone family. Very Sopranos, and it's like Oz is Tony Soprano and Vic is Christopher Moltisanti, especially the way like Vic's driving and Tony's in the passenger seat type of thing, or you know, Christopher Tony, Vic Oz, you know, it's very, very Sopranos-esque, and Tony's got this young kid that he's trying to, you know, teach the business, but Tony's the guy, you know. And at first, Tony isn't the head of the family, and eventually he becomes that, you know, like, I think this is very, very Sopranos vibes, like, much more than we would think. They pull up to a giant mansion. Vic's like, what the fuck? This is crazy. I've never seen no shit like this. So Oz goes in to talk business, and he's like, if I don't come back out, you know, don't worry, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. But yeah, I think at this moment, he was like, I might die right now. They might know I killed Alberto. So watch your back. Drive away if they try and take you, type of thing. But they try and big dog Oz and like, you work for the family. What, you got ideas? No, you're supposed to do what you're fucking told. And he goes, listen, maybe you don't like me. I'm an acquired taste. You know, and something about that line hit me in my soul. I was like, fuck, I'm an acquired taste too. You know, like, oh, God, it hurt. But then he starts to pitch this idea about the drug business, and he's like, we save 70% of the product, even though it was only 30, but that's classic drug dealer business. If someone gives you a percentage, it's normally the inverse is what's actually happening. Hey, I got like 60% of my product left. It's normally about 40, but they need to make 60% of the money. But we see Kristen Milioti, Sophia Falcone, is there, and she's out of Arkham, and that kind of surprises him for a second. And she's like, she follows him out and goes, hey, Oz, so much time has passed, maybe we should catch up. And he goes, right now? Okay. And they go and get a bite to eat. But Kristen Milioti, through this entire thing, like, as we've seen her so far, she hasn't been in Arkham. I'm wondering if she's going to go in and out of Arkham. But just her eyes, like the black hair, she honestly looks like an older Jenna Ortega, but she is gangsta. She's got, like, in that picture I was just looking at, she had like cuts on her neck, and then in this one it might be those might be later images, because she might have cuts on her neck from this collar that she's wearing in the Arkham. But I don't know if this is a flashback or if this is from a future episode. So maybe she got out of Arkham and Oz is going to try and send her back. Poor Sophia. But she is She does say when she's out to eat with him, and she's eating like she's fresh out. She's throwing food in her face, and she's like, my father used to yell at me for putting my elbows on the table, and he goes, well, he's not here now. So they both kind of put their elbows on the table, start chuckling, but somebody in the restaurant notices her, and she goes, yeah, do you think they notice me? How is she out? A psychopath killer. The Gazette called me the Hangman, and she says that she is Alberto's sister, so we're trying to build the family tree here. So Sophia was also Carmine's daughter, Alberto's sister, and the whole time he's having lunch with her, I'm just thinking like, man, Oz looks tired. He's been up for like 36 hours at this point. You know, it's like middle of the day, the next day, and he hasn't slept from the night before. So, he's definitely starting to get to the point where he's sleep deprived. But she's smarter than she looks, and she starts to catch on to what Oz said back at the house, and was like, there was a plan that me and Alberto had that only me and him knew. So why would you be presenting it as your own unless you were very, very confident that Alberto wasn't going to be coming back? And of course, Oz plays it cool again and goes, hey, you're the one that's catching me at surprise here. Alberto never told me that you were in on the deal with me and him, right? Like, which definitely was not the case, but Oz is just playing this very well. And it's hard to tell if she believes him or not, but she believes him enough to finish their meal, and she like kind of whispers in his ear, I always knew you were capable of more. And then the score starts playing as he's leaving, and the score for like the Penguin is so good, and he's like rushing around, and Vic's like, why are we rushing? Where do we have to go? And we find out that why he's rushing in a second. But they go and they hop in a car. It's like this old Volvo, and he's like, why are we in this car, not your car? And he drives this car, and immediately the car turns on, and it's a Dolly Parton 925 CD, and he pops the CD out. I'm like, okay, so he still uses CDs. He's driving a car that's not his. I'm like, this is clearly not his car. And we find out that it's his mother's car, because he pulls up to his mother's house, and he goes, I've never brought no one here. Show some respect. And right, so Vic's the first partner or worker that he's ever brought to his mother's house. So Vic is clearly has some type of love for this kid, and he wants to see him do well. And Oz is like, he's gonna look after you, and he scares her for a second. But his mom knows, like, he's trying to go, Mom, we're gonna get out of here, grab the money and go. And his mom knows he's lying, and she's like, what'd you do? So he tells her, and he tells her I killed Alberto, and he goes, Sophia knows there's gonna be people coming after him. And she goes, do you hear what you sound like? You sound weak. You sound like a pussy boy. A pussy boy. But you're my boy. You're strong bull, right? Like, so it goes from shitting on him, lowering his self-esteem, to building him back up into this strong man. And I was like, okay, so she's a bad mom, but she's also kind of an okay mom, because she built him back up. And she goes, you want to run and hide? But no, you're so close to having everything you've ever wanted, right? So his mom kind of talks him into staying, and like, hey, listen, dig the heels in and start doing some more dirty work, because you're so close. And then Vic and Oz are sitting down on the couch, and they're watching Rita Hayworth play Put the Blame on Mame. And he goes, who's Mame? And he goes, that's not the important part, kid. He's just a scapegoat. And then Oz talks to Vic and goes, hey, I know your building went down in your flood. Maybe you had family there, maybe they're gone. And he's like, but he goes, imagine having stuff like the Falcones in that mansion, maids and butlers taking care of your shit. And he goes, they don't even know what it's like to not have that, because they've always had it. They were born full. Guys like us need to stick together. But sends him on his way, goes, keep your phone on. Oz goes to meet Salvatore Maroni in jail. And they have a conversation, and Oz is trying to like win him back over. But Maroni remembers when Oz fucked him and his guys over multiple times back in the day. And so he's kind of, gives him a hard time, but then he goes, all right. Here's your ring. He goes, maybe you're not the guy. And Sal's like, how the fuck do you have it? He goes, maybe you're not who I think I am. Maybe, Oz is saying maybe he's not who Maroni thinks he is. So Oz is going to try and team up, turn on the Falcones to go to Maroni. Maroni thinks that's a little too shady for him. I don't know if he can trust Oz. He's probably right. But he tells him to fuck off. But until he sees that ring, he's like, oh, fuck, who are you? So Oz leaves, and then as he's leaving, Sophia has people after Oz, and they see him driving, and he's like, oh fuck, and he keeps driving, takes off in his purple fucking Maserati, And this is a pretty crazy scene because he, gets to a spot and he's blocked by a truck, and he makes it look like he gets out of the car and runs into a crowd. But I was like, damn, the Penguin on foot? He's not going to be that fast. They thought this through. The Penguin hid in his own trunk, gets out of his own trunk, goes to get back in the car, and one guy stuck behind and sees him get in his car, starts to grab him, he starts to fight him, pushes his arm against the steering wheel, the horn starts to beep, signals the other guys. So then, the Penguin starts to fight this one guy, still, as the other guys are returning. He stabs him with the Aqua Paradise air freshener, like right in the eye or something, and then the guy like stumbles back and gets hit by a school bus, and then Oz is just kind of sitting there, waves to the kids on the school bus, and then gets knocked out. And like as he's sitting there, like in this picture, he's pretty much looking at that guy get ran over by a school bus, and then he gets knocked out, and it's like raining and shit, but a great shot. And it kind of is where the poster of this episode came from. But Sophia takes Oz, strips him naked, so now he's in this fat suit, naked, sitting in a chair, and they like torturing him and shit. And the guy torturing him is Lorenzo from Power, and so Lorenzo was Kane and Monet's husband and Kane's father and Diana, and if you've seen the show, Power Book 2 Ghost, he's the father of the Monet family, and he's Lorenzo Tejada. So not Monet's family, the Tejada family. And so he gets killed off in that show. I was like, damn, he was a good character. Why'd they kill him off? Clearly because he got a small role in this show and he was going over here to help Sophia torture Oz. And he's got like a string in his armpit. I was like, why didn't he do it around like throat or something? And it was probably because that big fat suit. They were like, yeah, we can make it look better over here, but I don't know. Either way, she was like torturing him by stringing his armpit. That just looked painful. I was like, damn, what are they going to do? Cut off his arm by way of string? Ooh. Ooh. But so as Oz is stripped naked, and she's like, there was a witness that says they saw you shoot at a kid just last night, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, what, you believe this guy? I don't know this guy. And she goes, what, are you saying he's lying? He goes, yes. So she shoots the witness in the head, and she's like, you are so willing to talk your way out of things. You're so good at talking your way out of things, but you're willing to let innocents die just to cover up your own ass. And he's like, yeah, pretty much, yeah. And at this point, right, like he's been tortured. Oz has been up for like 2 days at this point, and the only time he's been asleep was when he was knocked out and put the bag on his head and stripped naked in between the chase and now, right? So I was like, God damn, this poor bastard is exhausted. But all of a sudden we hear a car crash outside, and Sophia runs out, opens the trunk to find her brother Alberto, his body in the trunk, and there was a cinder block on the gas pedal, so somebody planted this car to smash into a statue or whatever and have Alberto's body in the trunk, and his pinky's cut off and it says payback on the trunk, and we just hear her scream, and they cut back to Oz on the inside, naked, still laughing because he knows what she just found, and she's like, the kid did it. You did good, kid. Because right afterwards, he goes and talks to Vic, and just like that Rita Hayworth song that they were just talking about, he made it look like Maroney is the scapegoat. Even though Maroney is in jail, he's now the one that the Falcones are going to be going after for Alberto's death instead of the Penguins. So the Penguin's in the clear. But Vic planted the car, and he goes, you did well, you did well. And he goes, I just put the Maroneys back on the map, but I don't need them. Oz wants to take over the city, and he goes, and it's his. And he wants Vic in on it. As they listen to Dolly Parton 9 to 5, drinking the drinks they were talking about earlier in the episode, and he's like, aren't the mixed flavors better? And they're sitting there, and he's like, yeah, they are better. And they smile and laugh together, and it's like, these two smiling at the end, talking to each other. I was like, this is very much so Tony Soprano and Christopher Moltisanti. I was like, this is perfect. I'm so interested in this show. I can't wait to watch the remaining 8 or 9 episodes, 7 weeks of this show, whatever it is. The remaining 7 or 8 episodes of Agatha All Along. If you like that show, you like this show, maybe check out vice versa, the breakdowns that are currently up on the channel. If you're a big fan of the Batman, I got a movie review up on the channel currently. Go check that out. But I'm a huge fan of the show so far. Colin Ferrell did a fucking phenomenal job. They also had this little Easter egg in there, Burgess jewelry, which I believe Burgess is the name of the original Penguin back in like the 60s Adam West television show, with the purple top hat, the monocle, the cigarette, the umbrella. So comment below, who's your favorite Penguin? Is it this guy from the old Adam West show? Is it Danny DeVito from the Michael Keaton Batmans? He was probably definitely the most frightening. And then there's the guy from the Gotham TV show. He did a great job as well as the Penguin for that TV show. Or do you love Colin Farrell's Penguin? So far, maybe it's just recency bias. Colin Farrell is definitely my favorite, and especially after this episode, and just how he delivers lines, like, and how his character was written in the Batman versus how he's written here. He's just hilarious, but he's also terrifying and gangster, which is just the perfect mix for a Colin Farrell character. So comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Are you excited for episode 2? What did you think of this episode? Did you see any other parallels to the Batman or to the Sopranos or any other gangster type show, maybe like The Wire or something? I still have to watch that myself. Comment below if you have any movie recommendations for me, or if you have any recommendations for future videos, future breakdowns. My name is Bigg. If you'd like to support the channel further, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, follow my other social medias down in the links in the description below. Hit that bell so you don't miss future breakdowns. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you beautiful people in the next video. Peace.